So these labs are both set for virtual machines. It doesn't necessarily have, we might have some of the replication components. I wasn't actually prepared to show like our continuous data replication. Obviously we can put an agent in any guest, and this is actually going to be a good lead-in to our next section here. But let me showcase a few different things here. Number one, we talk about just high level, and we'll go back into this a little bit later.
Can you move the whiteboard a little bit? It's in the way of the projector. Thank you.
Certainly.
I got to say, this looks far better than all of the backup applications I've seen over the years that all looked exactly the same and were disgusting.
Great.
So just as a simple, when we talk about managing some of these guys in the cloud, and I'll come back into this a little bit later, but just to give you guys some of the viewpoints. If I want to start managing, say, some Amazon or Azure instances in the cloud, it's just a matter of me adding what we call a pseudo client, which is basically a way that we can just know how to communicate out to those instances. We go into it, we select it. Let's just choose Azure. Real simple. We enter in what our client name is going to be. We need our subscription ID, the thumbprint for what we're actually logging into. We also need to go in and add what proxies we want to communicate it. So that's what virtual machine or what server that's in my data center is going to be communicating up to that instance to drive a lot of these operations.
So are you connecting to an Azure Blob service right there to just get storage, or?
So let me show you here. It's not just a blob. It's more of a compute instance, right? So if I go into my Azure here, and I want to be careful what I do here. Believe it or not, we've accidentally, in doing testing, run up a bit of a bill adding, removing VMs. So we do want to just make sure we're a bit careful with some of this. But if we go into Azure, what this connects us to, and we've deleted the VM. Let me go into the actual properties of this.
That's a service then.
Sorry, my Bluetooth mouse, I couldn't get connected. So what this is connecting me to here, this is showing my Microsoft Azure subscription ID that I've got logged into for whatever compute resource.
Let me type that down.
Now, from this, I'm able to actually manage any of the virtual machines that live inside of it through this agent. So this is my virtual server agent, right? And this is actually going to be a great segue into the table stakes of virtual machine protection. Our virtual server agent is essentially, I don't want to call it a generic agent, but it is enabled for all the hypervisors that we support. So all of the code for the intelligence of how we talk to VMware, talk to vCenter, how we talk to vCloud Director, Hyper-V, all that is built into that virtual server agent. In this case, we've defined that version 10 virtual server agent, the v10 virtual server agent 01, as our communication point into the Amazon cloud. So what I'll show you, and I had it planned for the very end, or we can jump right into it if you guys want. We've got a web service that will showcase how we can actually suspend, resume, delete, provision, add, take snapshots of the VMs that live in Amazon, that live in Azure, through the management of this instance. And then, of course, allow that to be backed up to an instance that's inside of Azure. So that's just part of how we're doing more with the information. Of course, we can also restore the data up there, and I've got that as part of the cloud piece we'll show at the end here, just kind of wrapping all this up, where we can restore data through this instance up into Azure. Do that transformation of the actual virtual machine into that cloud instance.
And that can help you on the test dev, like building out a really good test dev infrastructure off production data.
Yeah, we get a gold level machine up there, and now we can do all the different cloning we need up in Azure or Amazon, and we can create whatever instance we need to provide that access back to our developers. And it's all using the integration of the tool sets that Amazon and that Azure and any other future ones that we work with, what they've provided inside of their cloud. So that's the real key thing to bear in mind. We talk about this data services platform. We're not about creating black boxes. And what I mean by that is we're not going to go out and create a technology that's a black box that no one can understand, support, or understand from a kind of an open source perspective. We want to take all the APIs that are out there and available, ingest them as a part of our platform for how we work and manage virtual machines, compute environments, and then leverage our intelligence and our capability to develop to then enhance them another step forward. Right? You can almost think back to the Microsoft model years back, right? We'll get you 90% of the way there and then let you guys kind of develop on top of it and make it even stronger and better. So some of the things that we try to do with those same APIs technologies. That way, when customers need support, it's not a all-on CommVault thing for support. We're working with open supported APIs that have a maturity and a roadmap structure to them that we can also align to deliver those expected results. So that's just one example. I'll show you guys some components on archive here as well.
If you know all things about the data, is a use case, for example, if I was to search for MP3 files or search for cto.txt or something, could that search across all your cloud instances, all your VMs, local C drives, across LUNs and that kind of thing, and find instances of a file name? Is that the I'm just trying to pick out sort of use cases for this data services platform, other than just backing up VMs and and doing that replication.
So
I know we virtualization field.
If we do so from a search perspective, and I know this is one of the things we were talking about. So let me go ahead and just kick one of these things off here, just to kind of give an example. Let's see, that's all tasks. Let me do it actually from a. I want to try to show the interface that gives me the entire view. Here's my reports and view.
You see an uptick in adoption of client-level backup where people are backing up their desktops?
Client-level backup as in laptops themselves?
Yes. Desktop, laptop, that kind of thing.
I don't know if I classify it as an uptick. We definitely have customers that are incredibly interested in it.
People are actually actively doing it, whereas they're using something like Avamar or fill in blank of random product that's just like Avamar doing the exact same thing. You see that a lot of people are using this for that. Are they primarily focusing it on their enterprise and data type retention solutions?
Well, perfect example. So CommVault as an enterprise, as you guys probably know, we offer an endpoint solution. Mm-hmm. And just as a quick showcase, and I apologize for the background image.
Why you apologize?
Not everybody enjoys my love for vehicles. So we have, as a perfect example, I was talking with
Gardner.
Where's the gentleman I was speaking to at the beginning of the day? Oh, he's in the back. About my Surface. So I have a Surface Pro 3 that I operate from. And I think it was John, right? I'm terrible with names. Ben. John was the other guy, I think. Okay, anyway, my bad. Thank you, Ben. Oh, yeah, he's got one as well. So I recently acquired this because I was tired of carrying around the bulky laptop and all the components that were necessary, right? And this goes back into the kind of this data services platform foundation conversation. CommVault has a number of utilities that will protect laptops. No kidding. Source side dedupe, all those efficiencies is kind of the dove factor for protecting the mobile user, which I am one of. When it comes to actually getting that data accessible, though, I didn't want to carry around multiple devices, a tablet, my laptop. I got the Surface. One of the things we enable inside of our enterprise laptop and protection solution is the ability not only to back up laptops, but then also synchronize the live active files I'm working on. So I can work on PowerPoint on the road, and the moment I get home to my home office where my actual laptop is sitting, all those files are instantly synchronized back to the last update write that I did. More importantly, I can share amongst myself and other users through my Edge drive, which is a part of that thing, Dropbox for the corporate enterprise. That's also a part of this data services platform. All this is done, as you can see, we've got Explorer plugins and add-ins that are direct access into this content store. I can add them in here. I can even go through my website and share out any of these files to you guys, so you can have direct, instant access to those files in a encrypted and secure format.
So you've built out a cloud drive system that competes with OneDrive and all the others?
We don't want to compete. It's meant for the data. So if you think about this,
they're sharing it with them. Everything they're
corporate data.
But OneDrive for businesses is that same exact.
Indeed it is. And you start thinking about, well, if I need to do content indexing and search, what if I become under a legal hold, or I need to showcase what data is making it out?
SharePoint, yeah.
SharePoint can help tie into that. Still, there are some gaps. This, again, is meant to be as an adjacent solution in those scenarios, where if customers want to ensure things are collected, let's protect from the OneDrive, from the Dropbox,
Just
bring them in here.
Find.
Can you manage that all through group policy and
who has access and what's available?
Yeah, or just provisioning that Edge drive service to your clients?
At this moment, it's not done through AD, it's done through our security model.
Okay.
So it's kind of another adjacent security model. So it's not fully meshed on top, but we have the AD integration for who lives where and who has rights where. Okay. But again, another showcase of not just VM protection, right? And this is another great use case of just that Edge drive and what I can do to share out. And really, it's rather quite simple to share. If you guys want to see what that actually looks like, I can show that to you. But those are just perfect examples, right? So if we go back into the demo here briefly, and I need to go into our vCenter product lab. I really wish my Bluetooth mouse was working because it's so much easier than using the touchpad. And here's a perfect example of a sub-client or a set of content we have set for archiving. So these are 3 virtual machines. And this goes back to that original PowerPoint that I had up that we started, right? The whole life cycle of a VM. We talked provisioning, but what about the death of it? What about the endpoint of that? And we'll cover that more in depth as we go through here. But here's 3 virtual machines. We've talked to a number of large service providers especially that will tell us that maybe within a week they could get 200 requests for net new compute environments to be brought forward. And of course, they go create them. 2 weeks later, they've either been touched, or in most cases, they say there's about 35% of those virtual machines that are asked for, never get utilized, but they still sit there and continue to run. Not that they take up that much space, not that they actually take up that much compute power, but over time, especially when you think about backing them up and doing it as an entire vCenter configuration, it can start to actually drain on resources. So many customers have asked for ways that they can actually start to turn these things down. And that's where we've, again, linked in abilities to start shutting down VMs, or if customers don't want us to do it and they want like a VM, sorry, I didn't mean to touch the mic, or if they want like a VM orchestration tool to do that initial, hey, is it being utilized, can I power it down sort of policy, allow us to go through and look for those powered off VMs, relocate them to different infrastructure, make them available as a part of our data services platform for what's searchable, able to be pulled back, etc., and basically follow through on policies based on what the customer wants. So we can either go out and find based on, I know it's only these 3 parameters, 3 basic parameters, but we can go and shut down VMs based upon usage. From there, choose to power them off and keep them, or move them to another data store, move them into our content store, and then let them follow through our retention management based upon how this platform executes.
Where's the intelligence actually is collecting that information from?
vCenter.
It's directly interrogating vCenter
Correct.
to find out this information.
Yeah, everything that the VSA does for VMware goes through vCenter for its interrogation.
Which VSA?
Our virtual server agent.
Okay.
Yeah, the general piece
There's
that
like
connects.
7 definitions for that word.
True. Good point.
I want to make sure we're using the right one.
And we can limit the effectiveness of these policies to like particular host, particular data store. So let's say you've got a test dev environment that's a good target for this. We can limit it just to that, so you know that you're not going to archive a critical production VM that just happened to drop below some threshold.
Sure.
Right.
So do you see the reason, because getting into the VM management and powering on and off VMs, people may think, well, that's sort of out of your remit. Do you see it as part of information management, as you would have retention on your NTFS file data or your NFS share? In a way, this is retention for a VM, and once a VM has existed within a retention thing, you want to be able to get rid of it.
It definitely can fit in that mix. I think as more customers start doing the dev test and expanding those workloads in the cloud and creating the virtual machines, having a way to really systematically manage those virtual machine instances in that compute instance, turning them down, powering them off, retaining them, keeping one copy perhaps, or just deleting them, will become more and more of a requirement in that sort of dev test execution workload. I mean, for now, the customers that this really makes a lot of sense to are the ones that are looking at thousands plus of VMs that they're managing to date, and that constant ask from IT where they've already virtualized everything. They've already done the virtual first. There's very few physical boxes still in the environment, and now they're at the point where they just want to make a better efficient use of the infrastructure before they have to make that next add.
Because there are a lot of tools that do VM lifecycle management. Mm-hmm. You're more in data lifecycle management, so it's just to correlate the two,
yep.
Really. Okay.
And there's synergies in going from the whole virtual machine as well as the data inside. There's things we can do inside of the platform, probably for another day, where we can actually go inside the information of that VM, extrapolate it out, and store it based upon a compliance retention need.
So there's a user profile or something stored on the VM?
Yeah, or say it's a virtual machine that was created that has some form of contracts or legal documents based on a development scenario you're executing on. And you want to ensure that all copies of those, red lines versions are extrapolated out.
So is that where your classifications and that are coming in?
At that level, as well as at a greater level as well,
so
yes.
I can just go through and, for any kind of auditing or legal reason, start pulling data out and pulling it off.
Correct.
I've seen scenarios where I've built scenarios where the organization is surging offshore devs to, update code on an application. And I need to build 20 VMs. They all need to have Visual Studio that's licensed. And then I need to tear down those VMs after 30 days. So in that scenario, I need to make sure that those Visual Basic licenses or Visual Studio licenses are no longer on the VMs.
So perfect example of that. Then we go back to this, not to use slides, but it talks about the whole.
No.
Here we go. Oh boy, CommVault guy said no slides, and here we are looking at a PowerPoint. Jeez, where you start from that configuration. Obviously, we won't do the hardware component, but you start thinking about provisioning all the way to the turn down. That's the reason why we started developing that provisioning. We've had the large customers say, hey, look, if you could give us a simple way to run through a workflow that creates a VM, leveraging a template and a gold copy that we've already defined, runs through the process, tracks how long it's live, and then shuts her down when we're done, that would save us hundreds of dollars a week, not to mention what it would mean a month operationally. So does it have a fit for the entire virtualization, marketplace? I guess that really depends on who the customer is and what they're trying to achieve, but it definitely has a high value use case for a certain niche.
So, the question. A lot of people use CommVault/Sympana for backup. I'm pretty sure they're using, what we're going to use for backup? We're going to use this product. How many people that you may be able to speak to anecdotally are using the VM management feature?
I mean,
if you're to pick, can you name one?
I know of a handful, yes.
Okay, all right.
I do know of a handful.
No, that's cool. That's greater than 0 is the number I was looking for. So.
Yeah. I could probably, if forced to do it, I'm not going to do it in the public forum because customers don't always want to be named in that sense, but I could probably name at least 10 to 12. A few of them I've been personally involved with.
Sure. So that's good.
Yeah, I can think of, off the top of my head, a major global media brand whose name I can't give you, and one of the top energy producers in the world. So they've come to us asking specifically for this kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to pause on this section then, and then we can go into the next, just kind of talking about the table stakes, kick through some of the discovery classification, and start talking about some more advanced technology.
Just one more question, because they're razzing me for go back to your slide deck. So this same process I could use to refresh dev from production, and when I say that, I don't want to refresh the whole VM. I just want to take last night's or last hour's SQL backup and put it on my dev VM. And can you do that with this?
Well, so we have a process for that. It's called a clone database operation, especially if it's used in conjunction with snapshots. Absolutely.
Okay. In Azure or AWS?
If we have it loaded in Azure or AWS, we could still automate that process. It just wouldn't be an instant access type of refresh. We'd still have to go through the actual file restoration operation.
Right.
And there'll be
the BAK file.
Unless, or our format, unless, of course, you've protected that virtual machine, that's the gold image that's in Azure, or you have that information up there, then we could basically work with creating a template based off of that machine on how you're going to spawn off your test dev images.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, so you'd be like restoring whatever changes to the VM's disk and then spin that VM up.
You got it.
Okay.
And by the way, the one other key thing too that really helps enable this data services context, built into our platform, we have a workflow operation system. So anything that we can do inside of our console, inside of our technology, we can put into an XML-based workflow engine. It's stateful, it's reported against. It can take outside user environment variables, much like a CA7 or a number of those other sort of workflow software techniques. The key thing here is we can also link to other workflow engines or have other workflow engines call us. So as we see the data center changing, becoming more cloud-enabled, we're seeing orchestration becoming a huge key and a major benefit need for customers, both on where data is being stored and how it's being leveraged. So that's one other piece that we've enabled into that, and it's been in our software now for about 2 years.